Hello, friends.
I'm Taylor.
And I'm Brittany. Together, we are two sisters who are here to help you learn some tips and tricks to help navigate this crazy journey called life.
We bring you the perspective of a licensed mental health counselor, aka therapist and a new mother.
And a slightly eccentric mom of two. When you combine us as sisters, we like to consider ourselves as quite the dynamic duo. So join us as we talk about all life has to offer.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and hit that follow, like, or subscribe button wherever you listen for podcasts for updates. You can also see all of our expressions and interactions posted on YouTube channel under Huani Counseling.
If you're liking what you hear, leave us a 5-star review. It helps us know what content you like and spreads the love to others to get resources and help for their mental health. Okay, Tay. So first thing first, if you're listening to us on the day this is releasing, July 16th, Tuesday, head to our Instagram because we still have a giveaway that's going.
It ends at 9 o'clock on Tuesday the 16th at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Yes. So if you're hearing this, like right as we're releasing it, go jump on and go check our Instagram. We are celebrating our 1-year anniversary. I think we talked about that in our last episode.
Mm-hmm.
And we're so excited. Like, we can't believe we've been here for you guys for a year now. Like,
I know. Cool. I was talking to one of our friends the other day and she's like, "You're still doing it?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're still doing it." And she's like, "No way." I was like, "Yeah, we've lasted.
We've really done it.
She was like so proud. She's like, "Seriously?" I was like, "Yes."
Yeah, I was talking to some friends recently too, and I'm like, we've got quite this like bank of different resources and all this. So definitely share us with friends, even if you missed the giveaway, because we have a lot of resources in there that we're hearing are helping people like from months ago. Like I had a friend reach out from college recently that had been going through like episodes from, I don't even know, like towards the beginning. So if you're going through something, odds are pretty high at this point that we have touched on something that you might need to hear.
And we're going to do more, we're always open to feedback, what people want to hear, if people want different formats. Like, I think we personally like to do a mix between the fun things for mental health as well as like some heavier hitting things, disorders and things like that. So if you guys have things you want or ideas, we're open, but we also like fun things.
Pause it for 1 sec. I think I need to turn the air conditioning off. Or don't pause it, but I'll be right back.
Matson also wanted me to remind our listeners that if you are local, so like Snohomish, like Stevens, Marysville, Everett area, there
North
is
Seattle,
like there's a free yoga event Friday night at the Snohomish Golf Course, sponsored by Spark. Spark Hot Yoga. They are amazing resource. We talked about them before. They are doing a free community class. So family and teens can come and do a yoga class. And we will be there. Koa and I and Brittany will be there and it'll be a party.
It'll be super fun. And we do these sporadically with them too, like monthly.
So in the fall, we do it during the school year, the teen yoga classes. We do them at the studio with the resources that we provide. So we do like touch base on certain subjects, mental health subjects that connect, and then they do a yoga class that connects to that subject. It's actually a pretty cool resource.
So if you missed this one from summer travel, like we are doing them again. So another reason to follow our Instagram account, Uhane Counseling. We post events that we're participating in as well. So, But today we have a fun one for you. We are talking about some we're doing Mythbusters, which is, I love that show.
I wish there was a theme song because I always think of Ghostbusters.
I know. Who you going to call Mythbusters?
I know. So we're going to bust some myths today.
Okay, let's do it. I got the mental health Mythbusters.
Well, it was interesting because Matt and I were talking about this one and we had to delay another one that we thought of doing and we'll do it another week. But so we were coming up with ideas and he's like, what about stigmas with mental health? And then I was like, I think there's like a lot to myths behind mental health. Like there's a lot of like not true facts. And we talked about that with the TikTok viewers and Instagram, where there's a lot of things where people don't know necessarily what they're talking about, or they're talking from experience and it's not really credible. And that's where I did a general one today. So I'm open to doing more if people have more questions or more myths that they want busted. These are fairly wide basic ones. And Britt, if you have a few that you're like, wait, what about this? Then we can talk about them. But yeah.
I think the discussion we're going to have today is great too, because especially if you have somebody that's like an older generation, like think like grandparents or like older parents, a lot of the people in those times like mental health was really taboo, right? We didn't talk about, or they didn't talk about it. We weren't raised to talk about it. And now that like some of the like millennials, especially because we are millennials, now that we're opening up and talking about these things, like there are a lot of stigmas that need to get broken from
Yeah.
the older generations. So if you're struggling to have like a grandparent kind of like get on board with like mental health and all this,
Mhm.
this could be a good episode to send to them actually, because it kind of like opens up that conversation.
Yeah, and I think this is even one too if you because some of these ones that are on here, I'm like, I feel like when I was even getting into mental health, I had these for myself, like,
Yeah,
"Well, I'm not
totally.
that bad," or things like that, and I think they're good things to talk about in general, like, a lot of people think mental health means something really severe, really, like,
Mm,
I don't know, aggressive or just, like, bigger things, and it doesn't have to mean something that bad,
yeah.
so
Yeah, and I think you and I definitely have had this as like a sister conversation. I don't know if
Mhm.
we talked about it on the podcast, but yeah, like
Yeah.
just that. Oh, it's not that bad. I'm fine. Like I don't,
Mhm.
anxiety is not a big deal or whatever it may be.
Mhm.
But there really are times when you need that. So, all right, let's
Yeah.
dive into this. Mhm.
Well, yeah, I was like, we even have some things we just had a conversation with me postpartum. I was crazy, so we can talk about it. But
Well, all of us have those things too. I mean, I went through
that's
a
what I was like,
divorce. Like it
yeah,
brings up all of these like trauma, anxiety, all of these
yeah,
different things. And it's like, okay, yeah, I probably do need some help, like, and it's just
yeah,
realizing like this really
yeah.
was, even though I like feel fine, yeah, I probably do need to process that. Like
Mhm.
totally
Yeah,
fair. Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
totally a real thing. So the first one that I saw was mental health problems are rare. That is the myth.
Meh.
I love that. We need a buzzer. Or
I
what a
probably have one
dad's
in the house. Like,
like. I know, it's
meh.
like what a dad's like, "Gee, who thinks?" Well, the fact is they're actually super common. So there's, like, statistics from the World Health Organization, 1 in 4 people will be affected by mental or neurological disorders at some point in their life. But I think this is even higher in the sense of, like,
Oh,
every single
absolutely.
one of us have emotions. Every single one of
Yeah.
us has a hard time. Like, this is literally unavoidable if you think about it, like, at one point, you will have a hard moment, a downtime, a breakup, something, whatever it is you will
Mhm.
have a mental
It
health
could be
moment.
situational, like you just even said postpartum, right? Like
Yeah.
that is like more of like a situational depression, or like everybody's gonna have something at some time.
Well, like, you could have moved or it's funny
Yeah,
because
you got
when I thought of
divorced,
this
like we
too,
just said. Like
well,
there's
like,
everybody's gonna have this.
okay,
Mhm.
Ross on Friends, I love Friends. So, like, Ross on Friends, when he's going through the divorce and then he yells at his boss because he ate his after Thanksgiving turkey sandwich and then
I forgot
threw it
that episode.
away.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, but like how mad have you been sometimes? Like hanger or like, food, like somebody stole your food, Joey doesn't share food.
Yes.
Like this is a real thing of like everybody has emotions. Everybody has like something going on sometimes. You get down or whatever it is, or stages in life. And that's where it's just
Yeah.
these are I think thinking that you're exempt from it is
Ugh.
naive.
Super naive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Never think you're exempt from, like, if
Well,
you are human, you will not be exempt from mental
and if
health
you're not a
problems.
psychopath, right?
Like,
Like, if you don't
yeah.
have something really wrong
Oh,
with you,
yeah.
then you
Okay.
like,
But
I really
that
well,
is a
like, this
mental health problem. Being a
no,
psychopath,
but
you just don't know it.
well,
Like,
yes and no, but, like, if you're thinking about it, yes, it is a problem, but, like,
yeah.
if you're thinking about it, though, in the sense of, like, everybody has emotions, and if you don't have emotions, then that's scary than having the emotions. Like, I'd rather be
Exactly.
anxious or worried or whatever than, like, not feel anything and not care about people and not have empathy, and that's where it's
Yeah.
like, okay, so the opposite is you're telling me you have nothing, you don't care about anything, like, no,
And then
I would
that's a problem too, even though they
that's a
wouldn't, a
problem too.
psychopath would not acknowledge that they were a psychopath, but Mm.
Anyways, so I don't like to me, I'm like, everybody is gonna be touched by this thing. Just like
100%.
everybody has a body and everybody will get an injury at one point. You will get a cut or a
Yes.
wound. You
Or
may
a
not have
cold or
it. But
whatever.
this is
Yeah.
like the example I always think too. Like you may not have it where like you're in the hospital all the time and dealing with chronic illness like cancer or something like that, right? Like
Yeah.
not every one of our bodies shuts down that way. But all of us have had to go to the doctor for a sinus infection or for a wound or something. Like
Wait,
every
today for
one of us has
sinus
had
infection. Yep.
bless you.
Mhm. Yep.
Every one of us has had to visit the doctor at one point in our lives for something, and if not, boo boo bear, go to the doctor. Like that's
Yes.
where our
Or had to put
physical
a
bodies.
Band-Aid on. Like,
Yeah,
you've had to at least put a
you've
Band-Aid
had a
on.
cut. You've
Like,
had a cut. I
yeah.
guarantee it. Like that's the analogy I think of when it's mental health. Like if you have a body, you have emotions, and you've had some ding on you. Now the
Mhm.
severity different, but everybody has had some ding. Let's be
Yeah.
honest. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right, that was myth number 1. Did we bust it?
Busted.
All right. The
Okay,
myth
myth
number
number
2.
2. People with mental health issues are violent and unpredictable.
Okay, I actually get this one a lot. Have you like heard this one in general public? Specifically with teens?
No, but I mean, I could see the stereotype, but nobody's ever actually told me that. But like, I can
But I wonder too if
understand.
it's certain populations. Like, because when I said
Yeah.
like, I specialized in grad school in addictions, right?
Okay, well, yours was okay, but go back, rewind from that. Go back to your treatment facility days. Back when you worked at a
That was when
treatment
I
facility?
specialized in addiction. So like, that started in
No, but
my
in Utah.
undergrad. Yeah,
Yeah.
I started my undergrad, and then I leveled up and continued in working in an addictions facility for
Yeah.
teenagers. And it was interesting because like there was validity to it of these people were in treatment, specifically in like when I was
But
an
they were court
undergrad.
mandated.
Undergrad, it was like a higher facility one, like an international one, like costs a lot of money. So that one didn't. It was parent usually initiated.
Oh,
I
was
think
it?
there was
Okay, I
maybe
thought
a
it was
few,
court.
but the court mandated one was in addictions,
Gotcha.
in Oregon, and that
I
one
thought
I
it was
did
just
for a
like
year
the
and a half.
bougie court addiction kids. Okay.
There was I did 2 different ones, and I think some
Okay,
of them
I
were
just missed
court
them.
mandated, but it wasn't as common as the one
Gotcha.
in Portland. But it was interesting because getting into it, like that was definitely a stereotype I had too. I was very like, "Oh my goodness, what's this gonna be like?" And I was kind of afraid, and then hearing everybody else be like, "Wait, this is it." And honestly, the amount of violence, like, okay, granted, I was with teenage boys who did have some aggression and stuff. So
Yeah.
like, yes, there was some clearly
I mean,
there was some violence and unpredictability.
yeah.
But it was far less than I thought. I was fairly safe. And like in practice now, like people are so sweet and
In
so
practice now,
nice.
though, you're with teen girls most of the time.
No,
Like,
I've actually widened to a lot of
well,
different
true, I guess.
things.
I'm just like,
I work with a lot of war
anytime
vets
where I've come
now,
and helped with like,
couples.
yeah, when I've helped with
Well,
this
yeah,
group and
you
stuff,
come
I'm
to help
like,
with
they're
my
the
groups.
sweetest.
They're
Like,
the
yeah,
sweetest. Like, but all my clients are like the sweetest now. So I think, um, like, I think it's a mix. I think it's a population that you're with, but also like, the, you know, they're like everybody else. Like you have such a mix of
yeah,
people. It's like going to the doctors literally. It's like where are you going to specialize in though? Like if I worked in the prison facilities and stuff like that, yes. Okay, this
yeah,
would be true statement. I work in mental health and I don't work in community mental health. I work in private practice. Like
yeah.
my population is so
Well,
sweet. So I think it's about population where you're at.
I think so. I think definitely population. And then I can actually picture this now with the stereotype too, because, and we had mentioned this in one of our earliest episodes, but diving into like Sylvia Plath and the bell jar and
Mhm.
just kind of like that perception of like what it meant to have mental health and all this
Mhm.
mental health issues. And it was supposed to like, she ended up viewing herself as being more violent and unpredictable because
Yes.
this was projected upon her.
Yeah. And they will
And
fulfill,
that
it's that self-fulfilling prophecy kind of thing.
yes,
Yeah.
because this was so like, oh, well, you if you have depression, then you must have this. And
Mhm.
actually, I do remember going in one time. I think I mentioned this before too, that like some of my serotonin levels were really low for a bit, right?
Mhm.
Like as I was like trying to figure out some different things that were going on in my body. And the doctor was like, "Have you had any depression issues? Like, are you feeling unpredictable? Are you feeling violent? All of this." And I was like, "Well, no. Like,
Yeah.
I feel fine. Like, why would I feel these things if I'm not complaining to you about them? Why would you even ask me that?" Like,
But it's really interesting because you bring it up because we're taught like certain symptoms and then we were taught like that they're not cookie cutter, right? Like
yeah,
so this can be a symptom. Children that are aggressive
exactly.
and violent can be a symptom of depression for them, right? But like it doesn't mean that like if they're not showing it, if they are showing it, that's it. Like you actually don't, you have to have so many other factors involved. And that's where I think people in their mind have like, oh, you're a teenage boy that's been court mandated. I had some of the sweetest boys in treatment court mandated. Sweetest boys. They just picked dumb things in life, but they never hurt me. They never did anything to me. Now I had some that weren't, but like it was a mixed population, just like anybody else, just like working in a high school. It really was just like working in a high school where it's like you get a mixed bag of just personalities and people. And
Totally.
whether or not they're in mental health, it doesn't mean that they're going to be this way. It just means you're in a mixed population.
So I'd say that we can say that one is busted.
Mhm.
That I
Busted.
um,
Number
I'm thinking of Ray
3.
Charles now because I'm busted.
I like that song.
I love Ray Charles.
Um, I actually really resonated with this one for a long time. So mental health problems are a sign of weakness. I have a very strong personality. And I think it still comes out at times. Like even postpartum, like, no, I'm fine. I don't need any help. But I was like major postpartum anxiety, like hardcore. I had anxiety anyways, but like it was like woo. Just worried about everything all the time. My poor husband. So,
I mean, we've gone over Enneagram types. I'm a type 6. I'm always worried about something. But then at the same time, I hate admitting that I am. Like, it's like,
because it's a weakness.
Stressing about something and I'm anxious, but then I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I always think of this like, I mean, there's different personalities. Yeah, like
I'm fine.
I think it's a big thing with this one too, though, is like mental health it's not like you're weaker if you develop cancer or if you develop any like chronic illness, or
right. I was just thinking the same thing.
Yeah. And that's where I think we really have to start viewing our minds the way we view our physical bodies. We have been told for so long, but if you look at historically how mental health was viewed for a long time, it was, you must be doing something wrong. You're being punished by God. It was a very religious stance for a long time, right? Gosh, or you're just insane, or you're just being a typical woman, or it was very like spiritual and religious, or like back to bell jar
and all this, like electrocution, shock therapy, or whatever was like,
you just have a weaker mind. But you know what's fascinating? I just learned some facts about Freud from a training, and like the reason he made people lay down, Freud is like a foundation. We talk about him all the time because he fascinates me, but he's crazy. But he would make people lay down on a couch because he didn't like people being over him and taller than him. He felt like there was a power inferiority for him. So he made people lower than him so he could psychoanalyze them and have power over them. So like
Napoleon complex that
literally. And he had an addiction, a coke addiction, but he like pretended like everybody else had it and he didn't. Like, so I think if we start viewing things as not better or worse, but just our physical bodies have impairments just like our mental health, it's going to have it. Like they're in the same system. Why wouldn't they coexist? But if you look historically, even how mental health was set up by founders, and founders who couldn't even admit that they had weaknesses, so they set up the whole institution to validate their own weaknesses. Like it's just ironic, and it's also revealing as like how mental health has been viewed for a long time and the stigmas around it. And like you would see the men coming home from World War II, they couldn't admit they had shell shock because it was weak and they're supposed to be manly, or World War I, or all these other things in Vietnam. So many wars and so many things. And that's where it's like, would you tell somebody they're weak if they came to you and was like, I have cancer? No, you can't control that. No. I'm so sorry for you. Like, or you lost a leg in battle. Wow. Like you're so weak. You lost. No, you would never say that. You know what I mean? Like, and that's where it's the same with your mental health, I think.
Oh yeah. And I actually have something with that too. Yesterday I was watching The Boys in the Boat on the way back from Hawaii. Have you seen that one yet?
I didn't watch it yet.
It's super good. I'd heard it was really good and I finally had a chance to watch it because I was sitting for 6 hours. But there was the coach, they were training for the Olympics, okay? And they had made it to Berlin to go to the Olympics. And one of the boys, the main, I think it was Joe Rance, he was the main like character that the story was around. Mm-hmm. And so he had like a really hard day, and the coach had kind of kicked him off the boat, and he's like, you're out, like you're messing up the crew, I'm putting in the alternate. And so he went to go and apologize the next day. He's like, I want my spot back on the boat. And the coach had said something really interesting that was along the lines of like, I told you guys when you were here that there were times when your body was going to burn out, but you have to remember that your mind is a part of your body. Mm-hmm. And so maybe this was your mind was having a moment of weakness, just like you were prepared for your body to have weakness. And what a great reminder. Like,
I like
this
that.
is, top level rowers.
No, I love that.
Yeah. And it was just super cool.
So my husband, Mattson, is super into all these like athletic documentaries, and they're always on in my house. And it's been interesting because every time we watch one with a strain on the human body, it always correlates. It's connected to what's your capacity to overcome the human mind and to shape it. And you will have weaknesses. You will have strain on it. And how can you condition yourself to accept that and to engage with it, and then figure out how to navigate around that weakness? Just like if you have an injury to your body and you're a pro athlete, you have to figure out how to deal with that injury along with using your physical body. And I think that's where nobody because you can look up Freud, built it to literally, like all these people couldn't deal with their weaknesses. They couldn't even acknowledge they had a weakness. Yeah. So they, but it's totally correlated. Just like you said, I love that. That's a great quote.
Yeah.
But
And then it's like, and that was just the gist, obviously. It's not the full quote. But like, okay, so I'm going to go on a rant for a second. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
So like, let's say a football player, right? Like some football player pulls their Achilles and they're out for the season and everybody has compassion for them, right? Everybody says, oh my gosh, like that sucks for them. They've ruined their season, blah, 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 blah. But then on the flip side, you have Britney Spears. And Britney Spears has a mental breakdown because her kids are taken from her and she's been abused and all of these different things. And all of a sudden people are like, she's crazy. She's weak. Like, why? And everybody just attacks Britney. So, like, why is it, if we're willing to see, like, this physical side of, like,
I was not expecting this, but this is great.
But I mean, seriously,
attack
like,
Britney.
Why is there attacking Britney when all of a sudden, like, but it's totally fine that this football player's out with his Achilles? Shouldn't her healing time have been given that same grace and, like, time to heal as somebody that would have been on the NFL?
Okay, but this is another thing too that you have to think about, because historically women have been told that we're over emotional, we're histrionic, we're whatever, right? Like,
tell
she's
Britney
just having
about
an episode. And that's where it's like, I wonder if you had like a male athlete come out and say, like, I've been dealing with these mental health issues. Oh, he's so empowered.
People
Look at how
have.
great.
And
exactly.
They don't.
Don't. But then women coming out, it just validates their weakness. And I think that's
Given
why
Britney Spears did go a little crazy. I'm not denying that. But like,
she's definitely an unstable human. But
I'm just saying. But like,
saying.
Extreme, you know.
Yeah. But I think this is the thing too, though, like, you have to take into consideration, like, this is a big one for, I think, a lot of people with different gender identities and how they're going to express to the world. And it's going to vary. Like, men will have a really hard time with this, as well as women, based off their culture. They're around, like, sometimes it's safer to women expressing, sometimes for men. And I think that's just something to think about too. It's interesting.
Absolutely. And men definitely like feel that more, like it's a sign of weakness to cry. It's a sign of weakness to admit that I'm having depression. It's a sign, you know, like.
Well, studies are just now coming out too for like male people who identify as male as having eating disorders, because it was so like, no, they don't have eating disorders. It's all girls. And it's like, men have the same societal pressures to look a certain way and be a certain way and obtain the standards.
Have you seen Ryan Gosling? That's got to put pressure on people. I'm just saying. Like,
I know, but that's where it's like, and that's, they have it in a different way, but they have it still. And that's where,
like even like my 8-year-old, like he does diving and stuff. And he has this pressure of, I need a 6-pack and to look like The Rock to be the best diver. Where does that come from? I don't have a 6-pack. I'm not a man with a 6-pack, but somehow in his head, he's like, to be the best diver, I got to look like The Rock. I need that 6-pack. Like, it's in them the same. And if we're not acknowledging this, then I say that it makes us weak. Like, we need to acknowledge these things, cut Britney some slack.
But,
and, you know,
you got to think about at the same time that makes you vulnerable. Admitting a weakness makes you actually vulnerable in our society. But it's interesting because it popped in my head when we were talking about this. Like, if you think about mythology, especially Greek mythology, they are very, very willing to say this god has this weakness. This god, like Bacchus was a drunk and Zeus was a man hoochie and all these things. And it's like, and it, you know, like they were totally willing to ascribe to the people that they praised and worshipped weaknesses. What happened between their society where they said this is an honor to have a weakness, and like kintsugi and Japanese art form and all of these ancient ones where it's like there is beauty and imperfection, there's beauty and weakness. What changed? But this is the society we live in, and this is how the medical world actually was formed. You know, you had all these experts who were supposed to be experts, air quotations, right? Like, they should know everything. They should have all the answers. They clearly don't, because we're still learning a ton of stuff. But you have people leading like a Freud who makes you feel like you're stupid because he has an inferiority complex, and you're just keeping going from there. So I know. I thought that was a fascinating fact. I was like, that explains a lot about our history for development on certain things.
It does. Sorry, we went on a long rant on that one, but I would say myth number 3 is officially busted. Like, having a mental health problem is not a sign of weakness. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think in your head, if you need to redo it, because this one is one, like I said, like we've all dealt with this one, I think, at least I have and Brittany has. If you think about it like a mental or a physical injury, it really changes your view. They're in the same body, in the same system. Like, why wouldn't they?
Right? I mean, just like Joe Rant's coach told him in that.
Why wouldn't they operate the same?
We acknowledge your body's going to be weak. Sometimes you're going to need to acknowledge your mind is weak.
Exactly.
Cool.
Love
that. Is like, that makes sense. Your body and your mind make up the same person.
Well,
yeah, mind, body.
For some reason, they separated the treatment of those for years. I don't.
They still do.
I know that's
like that mind body.
They do.
Like,
Yes.
they still do.
Yes.
It's insane.
Well, it's crazy that doctors are only required to take one class of psych, I think. Or maybe it's like
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a certain amount of credits. It's very, very low. And for them to fully understand the complexities of it, it took me 3 years in a master's program to get this accreditation. And I still have to do multiple classes on mental health every year of 36 hours every 2 years. Like, there's a lot to this subject, which I'm not expecting a doctor to know everything. I'm just saying, like, you've
like,
got to
it
start
needs to go
combining
together.
systems. You got to like start
it
having
needs to go
specialists
together.
coexist, and it's just starting to happen now where we actually talk to each other. And I love it when we do, because I'm like, okay, we're actually working together to figure this out.
Yeah.
I don't expect
One
you to
thing
know
that
what
was
you
really
know.
cool,
I don't expect you to know.
like, my daughter had gone to a therapist for a while that was actually tied in with her pediatrician.
Mhm.
And that was so, like, mind-blowing to me. Like, because then they were able to be like, you know, like, as soon as Adeline went in for whatever, she had a concussion. Like, pediatrician knew she had a concussion. Then, therefore, her therapist knew she had a concussion. They talked about it in her session. Like,
Amazing.
and it's just, that was so cool to me. Like, there needs to be more of that. Like, sorry, different rant. Doesn't go down this fact thing. But yes.
I agree.
Mhm. Yeah.
I agree.
Okay. Number 4. I think we might have to split this into 2 episodes because
We got ranty on this one.
Well, we have a lot to say. Apparently, these myths make us passionate.
We'll just do 5 in this episode and 5 in the next.
Okay, perfect. So we'll do the first 5, and then tune in for the second 5 because we have a lot to say. So Britney Spears came out. I don't even know. Okay, myth 4. You can just snap out of a mental health problem. Oh, I like want to puke.
I hear this one all the time, or I can just tough it through, or I don't need anybody. And I'm like, well, can you do that for like an infection? Can you do that without like medication on things? Like last time I checked, you need surgery for certain ailments. You need treatment that somebody actually knows what they're doing. And that's where, I mean, everybody thinks they can do. Okay, can I rant for a second? Everybody thinks they can do my job. Everybody thinks they can do my job. Everybody thinks they can sub in for it. And it's like, and I'm not, by no means am I an egotistical person. Like, I love people being trained to this job. But that's the key word, is you better be trained and know what you're talking about if you are going to get up there and help somebody. And by training, I mean you better go to a accredited K-CREP school and actually know what the flip you're doing and get licensed in your state. Because to be a counselor, because this job is complex. And that's where you can't just snap out of things. You can't just get better. Like, there is chemistry mixed with so much complexity on this one, okay? And just telling people just to get over it, like, okay, I'm not going to tell you just get over cancer. I'm not going to tell you just get over Achilles rupture. Like, just get over it. Like,
well, it's like, excuse you, honey boo. Like, who are you the one to come over here and be like, I just came out of, not me personally, but like, you know, I just had this huge traumatic experience, and you're telling me like, oh, that was 6 months ago. You should be over it. Like, WT crap. You can't just tell someone to snap out of something.
Okay, even taking like postpartum, like, look at, because I have been fascinated by this since giving birth. And
super fascinating.
Okay,
yeah, the science behind it.
The science, and looking at how, because I had to go to a hormone specialist and I figured out all these things about my body, right? And like, and she's like, it takes a long time for your body to be healed from such a traumatic process. You lost an organ, but your chemistry and your hormones changed so much. And but the world treats you like you gave birth. You should be back at it in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, max, like 6 weeks, right? 6 weeks, because that's when you're cleared for everything, right? That's like, where did the magic number 6 come from? Because I sure as heck
you
felt
can
like
have sex then you're going to be in a good place. That's all
literally. But that's
where, it's like, you don't snap out of it because all of a sudden I'm like, my vagina's open for business. Therefore, I need to snap out of this mental health problem. Like, I'm sorry. Like,
but there's so much to heal, because your body is still trying to go back, and like, looking at how much got destroyed. This is a traumatic thing to the body, people, and to the mind. Like, you have changed roles completely in this world. You're introduced to a whole different thing. On top of it, you got run over by a dump truck. So like, these two things combined, and people are just like, you should just be normal and you should be fine. I'm like, you would be normal if somebody ripped out an organ from your body, and on top of it, you now have a human to take care of while an organ got ripped out of your body. Okay. And I just grew that for 9 months, and now it's gone. Got it.
And so it's like, so people should probably widely agree with us on this, right? Because we're right on this one with the whole, like, you know, postpartum. But why would you say these things to someone? Like, I remember having a friend that had come out. She was suicidal, had gone into a care facility, and she came out and people were like, no, you're fine. You're fine.
Because
Like,
you were
right?
cleared. And it's like, all your
Because you were
problems are
cleared.
gone now. And it's like,
All your
no,
problems are
it just
gone.
means I'm not in
Like,
severe crisis where I have to be monitored 24/7. It means I'm still having to heal. And this is the thing. Think about how long it takes a scab to heal on your body or an injury or a
well,
surgery.
if you
Like
re-pick
people
at it like my kid, like, right? Like your scab heals, and then you re-pick at it because something happens to irritate it again.
okay, I saw this thing and it's gonna make you giggle. It was on Instagram and they were like, my husband got a vasectomy and he was told to rest for 3 and 5 days and don't do much heavy lifting, like sit on the couch. And I gave birth and they told me to go and take care of this human now and just don't move too much. And I died laughing because I'm like, this is so true for different
So
problems. We
true.
have these things in our head, even physical problems. We have these things in our head where it's like, well, you should be over that because
Yeah.
you just
snap
have
out of
to
it.
be.
You're
You
fine.
just be done. Just be done
You're
with
fine.
it. But
Yeah.
for other ones, because it was I don't know, because it was different, or I don't know, like
Yeah.
then you
Oh,
don't
you were
be fine. You get
suicidal
coddled.
6 weeks ago? You're fine. You're fine.
Problem's
You're
gone, right?
fine.
Like no, it's
Problem's gone.
definitely
You went
not
to the
gone.
treatment center. What the crap?
This is a problem you're always going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, it's frustrating.
Yeah. Yes. So important to remember, if this is a chemical diagnosis, right? Like you cannot come
Not
over
even
to, like,
chemical.
not
Like
even
this
chemical,
is
but like, I mean,
if this
I'm
is
talking about like, if you have a mental health diagnosis, right? Like depression is typically chemically based, not always, sometimes, I guess. But like whatever. I'm thinking
it's a
myself a hole
combination.
here.
Sorry. No, sorry.
Yeah.
I zoned out for a second. It's a combination of many
Basically,
different
all
things.
I'm saying is, especially if it's chemically based, you cannot overcome this by willpower alone. It's not gonna happen. Like,
Yeah.
it's not gonna happen. You sometimes, and I remember talking to you about this recently too. Remember, like I had
Yeah.
tried to go like and do a more natural approach to anxiety and stuff. And I remember you even telling me, like, hey, sister, like sometimes like give it a couple more months, but this may actually be a chemical imbalance and you may actually need to go back on the meds.
Well,
And that's one of those where I was like, that's valid. Like I know you're
Yeah.
concerned about me and I'm paying attention to it.
And that's where, like, I even wish that, and there was so much going on in our lives postpartum for me, right? So I can see it now, and like,
Oh, yeah.
but I told my husband this time because I'm pregnant again, and I'm like, okay, postpartum, if I'm that anxious, then you need to tell me. And I have a therapist again and stuff. Like I was in between therapists at the time, and I was like, I need medication to ground me for the first 6 months then, because I didn't feel like me for a long time, and I'm fine with that. But I think that's where it's like, you don't always realize it too when you're in it, because you're like, well, I've dealt with this long enough before, and then you don't realize something shifted in your life, transitions, loss, grief, whatever it is. Like you don't know what's going to be, and you may need a little bit of extra help at that time, and that's okay. But when people are like, well, I've dealt with it before, I'll just snap out of it, it's just a funk, like you don't have to suffer through your funk. You can actually get the help you need, and it's not permanent. Like you can get off and on it, and like, and it's okay. Just get the help you need for a little bit so you feel stable. And I think that's the thing that's hard. But you're right. Like it's not just a snap out of it thing. Like this is
not just snap out of it. No, it's just not the way it works. Just like your vagina just can't magically snap back into business, you know? It's fine. Tomato. Sorry for our male listeners out there, but you know, it's fine.
I'm not really sorry. You need to hear that rant. We sacrifice a lot.
So I say that this one is also officially busted. You cannot just snap out of a mental health problem. Not gonna happen.
Done. Nailed it.
Boom. Okay. Boom. Final myth for today, and then we'll do a second part because we're passionate today, apparently.
Go ahead.
Myth number 5. Therapy is only for people with serious mental health issues.
I like therapy.
This is a no. And I do remember actually thinking this as a kid. And I think it goes back to some of those stereotypes that we had like learned from older generations, books that we'd read, such as The Bell Jar, any of these type of things. Like it always seems super drastic, right? Like I'm not.
Well, that's how it was
I'm
advertised
not sticking my head
too.
in an oven. Like, therefore, I'm fine. Like, but no, that's not. Yeah,
that's how it was advertised too. So I think, you know, like there's been a huge kind of movement in the last 15 years, and it's been really interesting. I don't know what the response would have been 15 years ago if I was a therapist, because I had other professors and trainers, and they were in the job before me, and they were like, yeah, it was kind of awkward when you tell people you're a therapist and they look at you and think they're going to psychoanalyze you or stuff like that. And now I'm met with like admiration. I'm like, what? You know, like I'm always shocked when people are like, oh my goodness, you're a therapist. That's so cool. And I'm like,
well, and people have so much, like, I've seen this. Like, we were on a catamaran ride the other day, right? Or a couple weeks ago, and you connected with this lady, and you guys had so much. She was a therapist too, right? And you guys had this like instant bond of like compassion and like sisterhood and empathy. Like it was hilarious.
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
liked
oh
her.
well, Taylor just made a friend just because they both were able to like bond kind of over like the trauma of dealing with other people's trauma.
Yeah.
Like, that was
Well, I think there's a sisterhood and a brotherhood. Like there's just a connection, a unity, and having other people understand the world you walk in every day, you know, and like it's a hard position to be in sometimes. But I think the hardest part is people thinking they don't need you because they're like, well, I have the common sense to deal with that, or like your extreme solution. And it's
I
like,
have TikTok.
yeah, exactly. And it's like, I don't feel like I'm an extreme solution. I feel like I'm a well-trained, like the way we're trained so much is like, I've been educated to help you in the best possible way and give you the quickest possible solution. Like I am literally here to be the like encyclopedia for you. Like if you actually want the answers and want to get better quick, just come to me instead of all trying these other things. Like just come ask me, come find me, and I will gladly help. But I told you this when I was in grad school, like I'm sacrificing so that other people don't have to spend how many years of their lives, you know, to go and get this knowledge so I can spread it quicker. And that's where I think people don't see it that way. They see it as like, well, it's an extreme solution. I don't need that. And it's like, no, I'm just an encyclopedia of I sacrifice my time and life and effort for you. Just ask me and we can get it done quicker. And that's what people don't always think about.
I actually had a girlfriend too that I remember had like really like helped solidify this opinion, I guess, for me, right? I mean, I've gone to therapy over the years or whatever, but like she had said one time too, I remember that her daughter had an appointment and her daughter wasn't going to be able to make it. And so she's like, well, I'm just going to take the appointment because I need tips on how to better parent my daughter. And I was like, that's genius. Like, right? Like, because it's not that we like the mom was not having serious mental health issues. The mother wasn't, even though, I mean, the daughter was doing fine, but the fact that she was able to look at it this way and be like, oh, like that's still beneficial for me and for my time to go and do this. And I have used that perspective. Like there's so many, when Anson goes to a therapy session for ADHD, he's there for ADHD. Of course, we don't always get the focus. Like sometimes in a 50-minute session, we get 5, right? Like, and so instead of looking at that as like, well, like, what am I going to do? I guess we're done. Like I'm able to shift that and be like, how can I pick this therapist's brain? Like, what are some like ways I can better support my child? What are some parenting techniques you have for me for this? What are different ways that we can deal with like helping him cope with life challenges or like helping him realize his personal growth? And like, there's so many other things you can talk to a therapist about that are still so productive.
Well, and at the end of the day, like, even if you don't necessarily need our wisdom, you need somewhere to rant. You need someone to talk to. And we can't repeat crap.
Like,
we're locked down. So like use it.
I remember ranting and being like, oh my gosh, Anson has been so hard and this has been really hard. And that is a place to talk about this. And
but
like,
that's the point. And you're not judged. You're just like, wow, that sounds, like, how nice is that? And that's where I think people have this in their head. Like, I only go to the doctor if something's wrong. And it's like, really? I go to the doctor to prevent things. I don't go to the doctor to cure. Like, I mean, if I have to go to the doctor to cure something, fine. But like, I'm gonna go get my checkup so I don't like get something funky. And that's the same thing for your mental health. Like, go get your checkup. See what happens. I mean,
go do it. Like, you don't want to show up all of a sudden with like 50 different things or go into the dentist and like, which I'm guilty of sometimes. But like, if you don't go to the dentist and then you end up with like 5 fillings and it's like, I should have gone sooner. Like, I should have gone sooner. I'll just throw that out there. But you don't just save it for when it gets really serious because all of that stuff like piles on and on and on. It's like not doing your laundry for like, 2 months. Like if you don't do your laundry for 2 months, you end up with this massive pile instead of dealing with the little piles.
I use the kitchen analogy too. It's like if you had a kitchen, you never threw the garbage away for a month. How gross would your kitchen be? Even a week or a day. If you didn't throw your garbage away for a day, how gross would it be? Now think about it for years. And if you just don't like throw it in the proper garbage can, I'm your garbage can, people. Therapists are your garbage can. Like, use us. We know how to dispose of it appropriately for you.
I give my sister a lot of dumping.
We know how to throw it away properly. Okay. So that's where it's like, do it. It's like, what's the harm that's going to come? You talk to somebody and you spent an hour of your life ranting. Okay, cool. That's the worst damage that's going to happen. Great. Now, granted, like there could be some other things that happen, but we'll go into that later. Pick your therapist wisely.
Yeah. So I would say that we can bust this myth as well. Therapy is not only for people with serious mental health issues.
Bam.
Okay.
Nailed it.
Okay. Well, We will come back to you next week with the next 5 of our myths. Hopefully this has been helpful for you guys. If nothing else, hopefully it's been entertaining on your drive home or your walk or wherever you are. But yeah, thanks for tuning in with us today. Tay, anything else to add?
No, if you guys have ideas for more myths you want to be talked about, apparently we bring in some pretty good stuff. So let us know, DM us, message us, whatever you want to do, and we will get it to you.
Okay, cool. Thank you, friends. Catch us on Instagram at Uhana Counseling, and we will talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.